the coroner's inquest.
I jumped across the doorway with the weapon at a semi-chest level. I didn't have it at my waist, but I didn't have it up to my arms, at my shoulder. I fired as I went across, aiming in an upward direction.
And apparently the projectile, there's a warning label on it that says don't use it to aim at anybody. It's the kind of thing that you're supposed to hit the floor or hit the ceiling and let it bounce down. But he fired it right in, and it hit Rubén right in the head. That was it.
There were people in 1970s, especially politicians and law enforcement, who thought he was a very dangerous man because he had all of this power. And so there was real concern that Rubén was going to get these Mexicans to come and protest and maybe cause problems. So that's why there is speculation among many people that Rubén was killed, was murdered.
That last speaker was Julio Morán, the executive director of the California Chicano News Media Association. Robert Lopez, your battle to get these documents released, these police documents and the files on Rubén Salazar, why are you pursuing this?
Well, number one, it's a great story involving a pioneering journalist who was killed in a very tragic accident with a number of questions still unanswered, key questions, as I mentioned earlier. And, you know, I think one way to help answer these possibly is looking at documents. I'm an investigative reporter, and that's what I do for a living. I look at records. I've seen the FBI file that I obtained on Salazar. I have the LAPD file, and I have thousands of pages that I received from the FBI regarding the movement and the era in general. And the one set of documents that I don't have is those that are in the possession of the Sheriff's Department. There's about 8 boxes, I've been told, totaling thousands of pages. They include reports, photographs, notations, and other records. Basically, I asked for any and all records in the possession of the department, and I also asked for 16mm footage that was shot by the Sheriff's Department that day, if indeed it did exist. And so we don't know what's in these records, but one thing for certain, we'll never find out anything else, really, unless we look at the records. And one of the questions was regarding the missile that was used. It was, you know, the Sheriff's Department had tear gas canisters that were enclosed in cardboard at the time, but the deputy chose to use a 10-inch metal projectile with fins and a point. It looked like a small torpedo, and that's what he fired through the curtain at the Silver Dollar Bar in East Los Angeles. And the hearing officer at the inquest twice refused to subpoena the sheriff's manual that, among other things, discussed the proper use of tear gas during such situations. So as a result, we really never found out what the sheriff's policy was. Deputies said they were responding to reports of looting. Well, that turned out to be, reports of an armed gunman in the bar. That turned out to be untrue. I'm just trying to find out as much as I can what happened.
Well, I want to end with a clip of Rubén Salazar and then ask Rodolfo Acuna to comment. This is from his last televised interview talking about the revolution in America. He's being questioned by reporter Bob Navarro.
And there's a considerable amount of talk on all sides that because of this war, this country is in danger of getting thrown into a revolution. Matter of fact, there are people that say the revolution is here. Do you agree that the revolution is here, or that we are in danger? The general community are becoming embroiled in a revolution.
Well, I don't know how you're using the word revolution, Bob, but I think we are in a revolution. I think the United States is traditionally a revolutionary country.
But I'm talking about it in the more sinister sense, in an attempt to overthrow our established institutions.
I think that's nonsense. We are going to overthrow some of our institutions, but in the way that Americans have always done it, through the ballot, through public consensus. That's a revolution. That is a real revolution.
Rubén Salazar, speaking only months before he was killed on August 29th, 1970. Rodolfo Acuna, you're known for the classic history of occupied America, of the Chicano community in the United States. Your sense of the legacy of Rubén Salazar and of those days, the Chicano Moratorium on the development of Mexican Americans and Latinos in the United States?
I think it's enormous. It would have been even enormous if he wouldn't have been killed, because the articles that he wrote during the 1960s are monumentous. You start to read through them, and you really get the sense of the times. And I do think that he was right, that there was a revolution that took place among the youth at that time, especially. But I don't think that there was any danger of overthrowing the government and the people that we should have been overthrowing.
And Felix Gutierrez, your final thoughts on Rubén Salazar?
Well, he documented a time when our community was breaking out of the box that people had wanted us to put us in. They had objectified us, they'd stereotyped us, the media had not covered us correctly. He was a voice for our community, and he was also a voice to our community. Through reading his columns, we had a better sense of who we were, and he was a real bridge builder. He lived in two sides. He lived in an Anglo world, a very white institution that he worked for, and he covered a community that was not being well represented. And we have so much misunderstanding between Latinos and other groups now, the way we're characterized today. He was somebody who was really bringing people together and bringing understanding, and I think we're much less in terms of mutual understanding today because of his loss than if we had the benefit of his work over the last 40 years.
And in 30 seconds, Felix, how does that work compare to some of the journalists of today?
Well, we have more journalists today doing more good work. One reason there's focus on Rubén is that he was, really the one and only doing that on a consistent basis. And I think those who want to honor him or remember him, journalists like yourself are doing, should continue to do the work and use him as a role model and example and to explore the stories today. There's more of us, but it doesn't mean there's better coverage. There's more coverage, but necessarily more informed, as you have pointed out very well in your own commentaries, Juan.
Well, I want to thank you all for being with us. Felix Gutierrez is a professor at the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism at the University of Southern California. Robert Lopez is an investigative reporter at the Los Angeles Times. And Rodolfo Acuna is a professor emeritus of Chicano Studies at California State University at Northridge. We've been exploring the life and legacy of Rubén Salazar, someone not very well known outside of the Latino community, but certainly a pioneer of American journalism. That does it for today's program. Democracy Now! Is produced by Mike Burke, Sharif Abdel-Quddus, Aaron Mate, Angelique Comet, Steve Martinez, Nicole Salazar, Hani Massoud, and Robbie Karen. I'm Juan Gonzalez. Thanks for joining us.